Hey, Natasha here. In this video, we are going to be discussing why boredom is the secret sauce to solutions and ultimately unlocking your creativity. So, without it, we can feel stuck or blocked, just feeling like we can't move forward. And this results in us not being able to effectively troubleshoot, problem solve, or even create anything new in our business. So I invite you to like, comment, subscribe, all the things, and feel free to check out my 2-minute Are You the Bottleneck quiz to find out who or what is slowing down you and your progress. So when I had my private practice, I wore my busyness as a badge of honor. I would say things like, I don't remember the last time I was bored. And thinking that, well, like, there was literally nothing wrong with that. And, you know, slowing down or doing nothing felt unsafe. It felt foreign to me. Like I didn't understand what that meant. And I was always on the move. And I was on the next, on to the next thing on my to-do list, on to the next thing in my calendar. I would look at my calendar and be like, oh my gosh, there's a blank spot. What can I do to fill in that spot on my calendar? So white space? No. It was jam-packed brim to brim, my calendar. So I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time I was bored? And when was the last time I did absolutely nothing? And can I do nothing without feeling guilty? So I'm going to preface, when I say do nothing, I mean literally nothing. This isn't like sit on the couch watching Netflix or listening to music. I mean nothing. No input, no nothing. Okay? So I want you to reflect on this a little bit. And this is going to be slightly different than some of my videos because I'm sure people are going to say, well, why are you talking about boredom? Boredom is literally everything. It is the secret sauce. We are so busy that it's really actually hindering our ability to, do what it is that we are put on this planet to do, is to be bored. So not all the time, but we need to do it. We need to experience it. And it ultimately needs to be in our calendar, not necessarily boredom, but the literal unplugging and rest and what happens during that time. So here, I did my best attempt with my stick figure here. This is supposed to be a gift. Okay? I tried doing a few different both. It wasn't looking great. So I'm going to tell you that is supposed to be a gift. That is you with your gift. And your gift is this. And we're going to get to that. So hold on one second. I'm going to scroll. So the first thing is what we all would typically say, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I don't have time to be bored. You always have time. So if anything that I am ever discussing, there's an infinite amount of time. Time is a man-made construct. It is so that we all know what the time is at the same time to literally get our kids to school or to make your dentist appointment. Beyond that, there is an infinite amount of time, and time is what you make of it. We all have 24 hours because we made it that way. But what you do with that time is completely up to you. So my answer is you always have time and you're never too busy. Okay. So being too busy is an excuse. You are not too busy to better yourself. You are not too busy to be healthy. You are not too busy for your mental well-being. You are not too busy to create the expansive life of your dreams. Are you too busy for that? Okay. So then you're not too busy. Don't use that excuse. If anything, that is when you build that balanced calendar that we've been talking about and you insert a block for yourself. Now, there's different blocks that you can do where if it's like self-care or something that you do that you enjoy, all of this could be put here. But we're going to specifically in this video talk about boredom and the rationale for how incredibly important this is. Because I want you to think back to, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but it is for a very good reason. So I'm a 90s kid. This was before, computers and smartphones and all the things. And when I was a kid, I was outside, like in the snow too, but mostly all year round. And so that was our play. We'd ride bikes, we'd play with chalk, we'd go find our friends and go knock on the door. And it was like one of those things where I think we have museums now, 90s museums as wild, where you knew where everybody was based on if you saw their bikes in the driveway. Everybody was outside. We build forts, we do all the things. So think about that and think about your childhood and things that you used to do before we were plugged in with, earbuds and screens and smartphones and streaming endlessly on Netflix. The point is, we are not bored and we're confused at what bored even means anymore. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So you're not too busy. So I'm just going to get rid of that right now. I'm serious because I actually wrote on the whiteboard. You're not too busy. So leading into the next, where again, we unplug. So I'm talking about all inputs, right? So it's the podcast we're listening to. It's the music we're listening to. It's the endless YouTube videos. Sorry, I know. Guilty. But I'm talking about unplugging from all of those things. And then the freaking screen. We are going to put the screens away. The problem is that we are getting overstimulated. And a lot of times we don't even realize it in our bodies that essentially like an addiction, right? We're so used to it. We have our phones on our person almost all the time. And you do, or you know that you have a connection problem with it, because if you forget your phone somewhere and you say left it in the house and you are not at your house, you feel naked without it. You feel like you're missing a piece of you, right? So that's how we know how plugged in we are to our devices, right? So we have to unplug. And this is actually quite difficult initially because we are so used to these habitual routines related to our phones. And I've talked in previous videos even about in a morning routine about not touching your phone and looking at notifications, because all these things, we become not only reactive, we become overstimulated and we become then distracted. So the thing is we have now, I think, as a society, confused boredom and distraction. So we'll say, oh, I'm bored. And we find ourselves losing 2 hours scrolling on our phones, on different feeds, different apps, or just, and we call it boredom. Now, this is actually not boredom, because if we were bored, we would be unplugged, doing nothing. So what is it? We are distracted. We are distracted. That is not boredom. That is distraction. We are distracting ourselves. And I was listening to a podcast, and I now can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's amazing. He is like kind of like the happiness coach, but I love listening to him. He's from Harvard. And I gave this example, and it was so true because I've done it. And I talk about, unplugging and going on walks, which I do, but I prefer to be listening to something because, again, we tend to be wanting to be distracted. So this is where we find ourselves in this slippery slope. I still find myself there a lot of the time, but I catch myself. So one of the examples that he gave was, if we are going on a walk or going to work out. So say we're going to the gym and we go to work out, but we put earbuds in and we're listening to something when that's music. It doesn't matter what it is. But the point is, we are now distracting ourselves from the task that we are doing. So say we're lifting weights or we're at a machine at the gym and we're listening to something. We're not present, which is the next one. So we're not actually fully present in what it is that we're doing because we're distracted by the inputs that we are listening to. So the issue is this distraction. So again, that's not boredom. So boredom actually is unplugging and not being distracted. So to be intentional and to be present is to be completely unplugged and in the moment. So using the gym analogy, but you could even use this for something simple, even at home, right? So sometimes to pass the time or to do things that, say for me, not necessarily my favorite, I'll usually listen to something while I say, it's laundry day, right? Now, if I wanted to be present, I would not listen to anything and I would be intentional about what it was I was doing. So if I'm folding laundry, then I am intentional and paying attention to literally how I'm folding the laundry, what I'm doing next, and I am present and in the moment. So now going to being bored. Now, being bored truly means you could sit outside, look at the clouds, you're looking around, you can count the clouds. Again, kind of think back to when you were a child and like, say you're on a really long road trip with your family. And what is there to do? We didn't have tablets then, right? So you're looking out the window. You're maybe listening to the radio, but you're in the back seat. You can't really hear anything, right? So you're looking out the window. And then you start thinking, right? So you're thinking, I don't know, you start creating stories in your head. Maybe you have this cartoon that you really like. I'm thinking as a child, right? So this cartoon you really liked, and then you're playing out this like episode now that you've created in your brain. Say for me, I really like X-Men when I was little. So like I'm like this battle's going on. So I'm imagining all of that, looking out this window in the car because we're in the car for like 3 hours, right? So there isn't a lot, there's not inputs coming in. It's just I'm bored. So what am I doing? I'm being creative. I'm imagining things. I have different stories, different things going on in my brain. And now as we progress into adulthood, and we have similar things going on. This is, not unheard of. It's called daydreaming. It's called daydreaming for a reason, right? So we're not daydreaming. When we're bored, we daydream. When was the last time you daydreamed, right? Like intentionally thinking about things and being creative. And then other things can pop up like, again, when we think of like the two hemispheres of the brain, right? So your left side is more the analytical side of your brain, and your right side is more of the creative parts of your brain. It's the artistic, then like musical, that's where the creative juices come from. So what ends up happening when we think about this from an entrepreneurial set point, we are operating 99% of the time when we are too busy and we are not present and we are distracted, right? From the analytical side of our brain, which is our left side of our brain. So when we get stuck and we don't know what to do and we can't move forward and we're, in like one of my previous videos, problem, and we can't analytically, logically figure out what that issue, like how to solve that issue. We can't troubleshoot that problem because we're over here. We're over here on the left side of our brain. When we are bored or we take that break, we take that pause, allow the right side of our brain to, reboot. When we use the right side of our brain, that is where the creative juices and the ideas and the thoughts and the outside of the box thinking or the, oh my gosh, that's the thing, the light bulb moments, that's where all of that happens. So stuck, creative troubleshoot. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I never thought of that. Those moments, that's where those come from. The right side of our brain. So this is a way to integrate, and especially by being present, because when we're forward thinking and we're like anticipating all of these what if scenarios in the negative, the confirmation bias in the negative, and we're over here, we can't think about these solutions. We can't think creatively and come at it from a different lens, a different perspective. So that is why it is so incredibly important to unplug clear your mind, get clear, get on a pause, be present in whatever it is that you're doing or not doing, and just think. And then that's when you can even ask yourself, like, if you really want to get philosophical here, it's going to kind of come into this next one for asking the big, like, I go back to being a child in the car in this 3 hour long car ride, right? So, like, you start thinking about big questions like, what's the meaning of life? Why? What's my purpose? What do I want to do when I grow up? Like all of these things. What do I really want? What would I love? What would I like to see every day? What would the perfect version of my business look like? So I'm progressing to adulthood now, but do you get my drift? So, like, really allowing yourself to have that breath and using your imagination. Okay. Now, for those of you that can maybe get past being too busy, okay, I can unplug, but like, I literally can't sit here and just daydream. I'm going to give you kind of an adjacent to help you get there. So the adjacent help you get there is, hopefully you'll be able to see, oh, it's a mixed color now. I'm going to give you two options. They're both good. My marker's mixing is journaling and or meditation. So if you cannot just wrap your head around, I just did another video about kind of the ladder technique. So if you can't just be like, I'm going to sit here and daydream and like do nothing and count clouds. Okay. Adjacent, the ladder. So start with something that makes your logical side of your brain a little happier to start. Be like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. Here's your thing. So if you can't be like, oh, these big philosophical, you write, you journal. And there's a few different ways that you can do this. I think it's Marie Forleo. She has some videos out on like guided writing, which is super fun. You should try it. But that usually is a combination of meditation and journaling. But what you can do is just write. Literally, you don't even have to just put pen to paper, no typing. This is pen to paper and just write, just like whatever, just keep writing. And you could start it if you really want, like, I just can't just start writing and I don't know what I'm writing about. Start with just like a brain dump. Brain dump, what's on your mind? What are you making for dinner? And then just the idea is just to keep writing until probably your hand hurts. But it's just to like, again, kind of loosen the analytical grip, the left side of your brain, and allow the right side of your brain to kind of dominate for a little bit and kind of just get you out of this very narrow tunnel blinder-like side and allow your creativity to shine through. And the more that you do that, you can do it for a short time and gradually build your way up. But like the more you do this and become intentional, A, it's easier. B, you get more out of it and you will be amazed at the creative ideas, the thoughts, oh my God, and how much better you start to feel. Because we don't even realize it a lot of the times when we've been stuck in the analytical side of our minds, what's going on there. It's hard to shift because we feel stuck because we are stuck. This is how you get unstuck with the right side of your brain. So, and then if you are feeling inclined, I would always suggest meditation. You can do guided or quiet. In this case, based on what we're talking about, I would say quiet. I would start with quiet, start with 10 minutes of some deep breathing, get on the floor, whether you lie down or you're sitting up, but just get on the floor, get grounded. And that is literally what you're doing. And you breathe in quiet, calm your thoughts, calm your mind, and do that. And you can gradually build on that. So if you can't just do nothing, here's a thing that you can do, which is essentially going to help you to do nothing and unlock that creative, beautiful creative side of your brain. That's going to help you with your business. Because the problem with you feeling stuck and unable to figure out your life with your business is because you are not bored enough. So I really just hope that what you take away from this video, especially at like what I think was super helpful for me, was learning really what the difference between being bored and being distracted really was. And, the amount of inputs that we have, and they become rituals, they become habits, and they become addictions. Not like addiction has a negative connotation, but like we become addicted to things, and because it's habitual and because it's on our person and because it's so readily accessible to us, and that's how we do a majority of life connection things, we don't realize it. So it's hard to make that shift initially, but once you become aware, because awareness is always the first step, once you become aware and start implementing, you will, nothing but great things are going to come from this. And you won't feel stuck, because being stuck is an illusion. You are not actually stuck. You have this illusion that you are stuck, but you are not stuck. This is how you get unstuck, the right side of your brain. So please just stop being busy. Please don't wear busyness as a badge of honor like I did. There is a way out, and that is to just get unplugged. So get unplugged, try some of these things, and I would love to hear what you got out of it. So like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Feel free to check out my podcast, The Fear Chronicles, False Evidence Appearing Real, which is all things mindset strategies for private practice owners. And I will see you in my next video.